Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jared. This is Justice's Waiting Room. This is a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. Again, typically live Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9:30. Typically on the weekend, I'll be live 9 to 10:30 a.m. Yesterday we had a protest, and then my wife was like, "Hey, go get my oil change first." And I was like, "Okay." So that would be why we had the podcast early yesterday. First things first, shout out all of you that went out and protested yesterday. Hey, at least you aren't the asshole making fun of protesters. Yeah? Make sure we say that again. At least we aren't the assholes making fun of protesters. I didn't see good morning, CC, Carlin, Bob, Debs. I didn't see any counter protest where I was. And then here's the skinny on what is probably going to be the conversation of the day. In Lafayette, Indiana, a couple rolled up to the protest in a pickup truck, rolled down their window, started yelling on a bullhorn. The driver of the truck got out of his truck to go belly up to a bunch of protesters and got fucking head-butted and broke his nose. And went and got in his pickup truck and got his AR out and for the record, never had that weapon in the firing position. He had it in his left hand. He was just, and again, I'm not saying it wasn't dangerous and stupid. He shouldn't have done that. I'm saying I'm more inclined to believe that's a paid actor. He was never intending to fire that gun. His girl was egging him on. Um, and again, outside of that, I didn't see a good counter protest. Okay. So know that a lot of people out here are saying, well, the police said that they were just defending themselves by getting their gun out. And having been on active duty, having been around guns my whole life, having worked armed and unarmed security forever, you know what? I'd never felt threatened watching that video. And also, that entire situation could have been avoided if old boy hadn't rode up to a walking protest in a big pickup truck. If his girlfriend hadn't rolled down the window with her bullhorn and started yelling at protesters, if old boy hadn't got out of his vehicle, he wouldn't end up head butted. He wouldn't end up with a bloody nose. He'd never felt like he had to go back to his vehicle, get out a firearm, and bring it back to the fist fight that he ran away from like a little girl after he got fucking headbutted. CC said we had a few one bigger salute and Trump trucks with flags. Cool. So, all in all, great show. Everybody, millions of people protested all over the United States, not just in state capitals. Okay. They're saying 5,000 here in Indianapolis, but there are at least two or three other cities in Indiana alone that had 1,000 or more protesters. Okay, it's a big deal. Um, they're saying right now about I'm guessing in excess of 3 million people. Hey, we're almost 1% of the population protesting. Pretty early into Donald Trump's administration, pretty early into this recession, pretty early into 2025. Um, I don't watch the news, but people are saying that they didn't. 3,000 in Algonquin, Illinois. I'd love to hear it. Okay. Here's an article from Rolling Stone talking about these protests. Okay. So it's not that it's not getting any press. It's just not getting, and I just want to make sure I say, as we have just talked about, I've got people that are fans that have lost their 401k, that their retirement's now shot, um, and I can't offer much. It looks pretty grim. But I did see this company called Eutelsat, EUTELSAT, okay? Uh, has now signed two countries to billion-dollar contracts to effectively replace Starlink. Um, and so while on the one hand, I would definitely advocate waiting until these stocks crash to get involved, this is not the time to get rich. This is not the time to get rich. They're not going to recover. So buying stock in all these falling stocks in the United States right now is a bad buy because they're not going to recover. So you're losing your asshole. So by the way, Donald Trump, big protest in Utah. Great, Kara. Um, what was I talking about? Yeah, a lot of people are losing a lot of money on their retirement, their 401k, and there isn't a lot out there that's going good. But there's this company, Eutelsat, EUTELSAT, that has signed Canada and Germany, uh, s- replacing their Starlink contracts. Um, I think that they're publicly traded and they're only going to grow. Um, so again, can't offer much. There's a lot of people that are in unrecoverable positions, right? Where if you're losing like 40 or more thousand dollars in your fucking retirement in a day, we're not recovering that. Gotta go, gotta go. Um, takes money to make money, you know what I'm saying? So again, more big news sites writing articles about protests. But yeah, check this map out of all these protests all over the place, even in Canada, the hands-off protests. Now, I will say maybe a little too many protests yesterday, and that you have a bigger impact. I get it, it's not great to have to drive an hour or two to protests. Um, and so I'll just say it. Like, hey, a lot of these protests are on top of each other. Why aren't we together? I don't understand. We're all in this together. There are a handful of people in the United States that should be opposed to what's happening. Okay. But yeah, look at fucking Boston. Fucking Boston. Okay. There's just a lot of people out in Boston yesterday. You're saying 2% of the population now. New York, here's New York City. Look at them lining the fucking streets. Yep, that's what I said. International, including Canada. Yeah, yeah. DC, Boonville, Indiana, a small ass town. Boonville, Indiana had 37 people protesting yesterday. Front page of the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Guardian, ABC, CBS. Can't ignore it anymore. It's all over. It's all over mainstream media. Didn't take long for the dam to break. Um, over 10K in Chicago. Yeah. You see National Park Service is saying in excess of 5 million. So if you yeah, yeah, Zeke. There were planned protests in Canada yesterday. So uh congratulations to Donald Trump and his administration for inspiring international protests against their agenda within 90 days of being elected or being inaugurated. Um, Canada and Michigan meet at the bridge again. Yeah, we said that yesterday on the show. Republicans are working on a bill to stop Donald Trump's tariffs. Again, as I've said before about these tariffs, not only does the president not typically get to lay these tariffs, in order to be able to lay these tariffs, he has to use the IEEPA Act. I think it's the International Environmental Emergency Powers Act. Okay. And the only way he's allowed to lay these tariffs is if there's an emergency. Okay. If there's a national emergency. His reasoning is that we're in a trade deficit. We haven't had a trade surplus since 1975. So clearly the economy has done very well running a trade deficit. So imposing all these tariffs without being able to like logically constitute a reason for these tariffs is going to be a problem for him. They're going to have to walk that back. Okay? And also, the IEEPA Act of 1975, it also says the tariffs must be reciprocal. And I know that a lot of people don't know what that means. But that means if you tariff my shit at 10%, I get to tariff your shit at 10%. And so when you watch Donald Trump lay those tariffs and what their tariffs are on our goods and what our tariffs are on their goods, when those things ain't equal, that's not reciprocal. So that's not following the guidelines of the IEEPA Act of 1975. So again, I'm saying he doesn't have a good reason to do it. And then he also didn't do it right. This is part of not being able to fucking read. Okay. So I know a lot of you out there are like, well, how the fuck did Donald Trump think that any of this was going to happen? Because he can't read, and because Vladimir Putin doesn't know how our government works, and Elon Musk doesn't know how our government works. So they just somebody was like, yeah, this fucking act says you could lay tariffs, and they got all the way to the act, and he was like, fuck it, tell them it's because of the trade deficit, and then understand that those tariffs aren't equal. And that, remember, I want to make sure you point this out. A bunch of billionaires got cash assets before all of this happened. And this was planned. And their purpose is to tank these companies and then buy them. There's a reason that I'm like, we need to form an American Socialist Party. We need to work with unions so that when these companies go belly up, the employees, the people that ran the company from day to day, can just buy it up and run it themselves. That would be the social ownership of business. That would also be seizing the means of production, right? Is by saying, like, look, we have to participate in this system, but it's crashing. It's crashing. The healthcare system in this country is crashing. The stock market is fucking crashing. This means that not only, for the record, only 10% of the US population is actually invested in the US stock market. So 98% of stocks are owned by 10% of the population. And understand that the very people that supported this administration are the very people losing their entire fucking asshole beyond what is recoverable. And they were not wholly, WHOLLY, prepared for this. So understand, even those billionaires that I said got cash assets out before all of this and are going to seize, they're not going to have enough. They're not going to have enough money. They'll have lost too much money. Okay. And so, uh, things are going to be rough for people. If you work for a large corporation that might be heavily invested in any of these major tech corporations, Facebook, any of the Meta tools, Twitter, right? If a considerable portion of your income comes from these tools, I'd be worried too. If you own your own business and you use social media to spread the word, I would be worried. I would be fucking worried. Because without beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm not going back to Meta tools. No Facebook, no Threads, no IG, get Messenger off your fucking phone. Get rid of WhatsApp, get rid of Twitter, and only use Amazon to search for the products you want to buy and then go buy them from the producers. Save yourself some money. Stop buying shit off of Amazon. Starve these people out that support this regime. They're already losing their ass. You can help. You don't even have to do that much. In fact, you could do less. I'm saying doom scroll less. You know what I mean? I'm finally on Skylight. If you're following me on Blue Sky, you can follow me on Skylight. So hey, here I will start posting content more regularly there. Okay, but I don't think they got a live feature there yet. So we're not live on there yet. So I have to play the Clapper TikTok game. So yeah, like I said, want to make sure the resounding theme today is, especially if you got out there and protested yesterday, protested your little ass off, hats off, congratulations, keep it up, all that shit. Most importantly, keep it up. Don't think that going out there one time. No, because all those trades are public, and if you look at how much those people pulled out ahead, it's not enough. That's why we need to build the American Socialist Party, be heavily pro-union, encourage people to enroll in unions, become leadership in unions, because it's going to prepare you for a political office. And if you're watching me, you've realized shit is just straight up political. There's no more like, oh, we could not be political. I had the best conversation I have had in my life at a fucking Jiffy Lube yesterday. I was minding my own fucking business. So I'm gonna tell you all this story. This is my protest story. Okay? Didn't have fuck all to do with the protest. Okay? So I go to get my wife's oil change in her car yesterday. Okay? I go to the Jiffy Lube in Lawrence. Um And let's, leave your key in your car, go sit in this little room here. There's three of us. It's me and a little Latina man and a black man who looks like he's not from the United States. Like that kind of black. Where you're like, oh, they're not from here. Can hear the little Latina guy, answers the phone in English, gets called by his name, and he leaves. And I'm thinking I'm sitting there with somebody who probably doesn't speak English. And he does. He speaks the fucking King's English. It sounded like he's French, okay? Maybe like French Algerian. And he says, I got a question for you. So keep in mind, I went to get an oil change. I was minding my own business. I was scrolling on my phone, trying to keep to myself, right? He said, I got a question for you. What do you think about AI? And I couldn't have rolled my fucking eyes harder fast enough, right? Like, oh my God, like I'm the wrong person to ask about AI. And he immediately says, I have kids in school, and I'm worried that AI is not helping them. And I said, oh, absolutely not. I just so happened to, and I was wearing my second MarDiv hat. I didn't have a Purdue anything on. Okay. And I said, I just happened to be a Purdue alum. I was studying data analytics for about 2 years. I was using AI. And he was like, oh my God, what did you think of AI? And I just said, um, it's overpriced. It's great at database building. It can do some of the work. It can learn, but it can't replace a traditional education. Being able to do the work is shows that you've actually learned the material. And AI can take like a word problem and it can identify the math problem you would need to to figure that out, and it could probably even tell you the answer. But frequently, what we found was when we were at what we were asking of AI, it was only able to deliver a framework of the answer. Not it. We were able to ask it questions and it was able to learn and answer them. No, over time, think about how long. Think about just being like a normal worker and whether AI would help you or not. You have to ask it questions. You have to know the answer. You have to know it will be wrong and know that it will learn over time. The more you put into it, the more you'll teach it and the more it'll learn. But that's not artificial intelligence. That's not a conscious. It's not conscious. It's not learning on its own. It's learning only after a result of an input, as a result of an exchange. It's very transactional. It's like a calculator, but it doesn't spit out the answer. And if you keep punching in problems into the calculator, eventually it learns how to. By then, it's too late. The homework was already due. So, sure, there are advanced versions of these AI protocol, but long story short, in my opinion, the question is far more complex than AI is prepared for right now, and that makes it potentially good in the future, but not something that I'm betting a bunch of money on. There's a reason I'm not running around telling people I'm a data analyst graduate from Purdue University having studied fucking AI. There's a re there's a reason for this. And it's because I see it as a negative because corporations are built on efficiency and AI allows you to straight up replace people's fucking jobs. The problem with Elon Musk and Donald Trump and shit is that what they're trying to do is they're looking at like the Chinese economy and saying we want to automate our manufacturing, right? So they sell it to you as we're going to bring back manufacturing to the United States. by tariffing all these countries and making their goods prices increase to the point where we can just enslave our political enemies and force them to make this shit for free for us using robots and AI to do the manufacturing work that's left to be done in the United States. Remember that I'm sitting here and telling you their money power is gone. It's that shit's over with. All those people that we said we couldn't believe they're high at the fucking inauguration, they've lost their whole fucking asshole. So know that yeah, they got some cash out, but it's not enough. Lots of companies are going to go out of business. So I'm definitely telling people I mean I know I'm in the right position, right? I got a job. I work from home. I'm fucking good. My wife is working. She works at a hospital in a city. It ain't going nowhere, right? Like we're good. But I'm making sure while I'm good that I'm looking around and saying like I hope y'all are good. I hope you're making plans for if you're working at a small town clinic or hospital, hey, your funding's in question. Hey, if you're working for the fucking VA and you're not already looking for a fucking job, you got to be looking for a fucking job, especially if you're a veteran, right? A lot of people, I've seen a lot of content in the last 24 hours from my friends that don't look like me, talking about how there's a reason that you didn't see a lot of people of color at your protests. And it's because they're unfairly targeted by police. And I wanted to say good on them for looking out for themselves for once instead of having to save us all the fucking time and putting this on fucking white people and saying get your ass out there and fucking protest like your fucking life depends on it. A lot of people are not familiar with filial law and how I'm having to read up on this shit because of my relationship with my family, and being forced to take the necessary steps to prevent my parents from taking advantage of my financial situation and forcing themselves upon me in their old age. Not after who they've shown me to be, shown me that they are, I guess. Not after they showed me who they are. There. So I have to take legal steps to protect myself, right? Most people will never think about that. They're going to be blindsided by this. A lot, especially if you're a woman, I'd be fucking wary. I'd be wary about your husband coming home after losing his job and losing his mind. Because especially if you're a white person, like you voted for this. This is what you wanted, right? The end of DEI? Yeah. What did it cost you? Everything? Good. Good. You destroyed the woke mind virus. What did it cost you? Everything? Good. Good. And I agree here with President Zelensky. We need to put pressure on Russia and not waste time in empty talk. Because all these tariffs did was put the US stock market in the same sort of peril that Russia's in. Russia's economy is in a much worse place. The US economy is faltering. Yep, it will. It will. You know, see, the thing that people don't realize when social safety nets are in question is that when you lose your job and you apply for these social safety nets expecting them to be there and they're not, what are you going to do then? and you voted for this. So you voted to take away your own safety net, voted for someone that wanted to deregulate, voted for someone that put our economy in peril, cost you your job. And then when you went to go get those welfare benefits that you hate people for having, they weren't available for you. Hmm. And I'm hoping it's the people that have shit on homeless people that taste that. I just want the people that have been basically talking shit on fucking poor people my whole life. I want you to taste it. I didn't say I want you to stay. I want you to taste it. Because through this, I realize like veterans are going to be okay through this. VA benefits are paid out of the Treasury, as are Social Security benefits. So people that are on Social Security and veterans benefits are going to be okay. The people that are going to have a fucking problem are the people on welfare, Medicare, Medicaid, SSDI, and that's what makes it particularly troubling for me is I know a majority of those people voted for this shit. One of the things I've learned about empathy, I learned this analogy about empathy, so I didn't make this up, okay? But what empathy is, okay? What apathy is you see someone that has fallen into a pit and you acknowledge, look, somebody fell in that pit, and you walk away. That's apathy, okay? When you care about someone, you might actually climb down that ladder about halfway and extend your arm. You might actually even try to help that person out of that pit, right? When you empathize with somebody, which is a deeper level than just caring about somebody, when you empathize with them, you get down in that fucking pit with them and you pull them out of that pit. Okay? So understand that part of being an empathetic person, I also know my clientele. So my clientele are the over 55 crowd. Have been for pushing a decade. Okay? These are the exact people that voted for this shit. The people that felt like they were on cloud nine, been working their whole life, got two, three fucking pensions going plus SSDI. Hell, Jared, I'm making 50, $6,000 a month in retirement, getting paid better than I am working. And that shit is going to come to a halt. You think those corporations are going to honor those fucking pensions when all their fucking values wrapped up in stocks that are fucking crashing? Not enough people are talking about how much money they're losing in their fucking retirement. The only reason I'm not talking about it more is because I already pulled out last year because I knew the US healthcare system was gonna fucking cave. And for the record, you got executives of these companies saying they're fucking caving. So it's not like I'm not coming up with anything fucking new. The execs know that the US healthcare system's fucking failing. So again, the people that it affects, the customers, right? The clients, the everyday worker that works for these companies, and the fucking executives for these companies. Okay? So one of the things when you have a great deal of empathy is that you cannot look at this situation with apathy and say fuck them all, right? You cannot look at this situation and say that fuck the over 55 crowd, fuck all these doctors and nurses and MAs and shit, and fuck these executives. You can absolutely say fuck these execs and the over 55 crowd largely voted for this shit, right? But as far as the people that are working in these industries, I understand these industries have to survive all these people that are going to suddenly not be able to pay, that have been able to pay. Yeah. Ooh. So here, out of NBC New York, Zuckerberg, Bezos, and Musk each lose more than $23 billion after Trump tariffs spark meltdown. And so understand there's no way, zero way, that these tariffs lower our costs. In fact, one of the things that has to be said about this entire situation is that the increase in costs are not going to be equal to the tariff difference. Companies are still going to make money. They're going to raise their prices in excess of the tariff. You're more like looking at certain goods doubling in price. One of the videos I watched yesterday was talking about how, yeah, 23 billion a piece, buddy. Hey, if I can be any source of motivation to any of you, I want you to be more confident. I want you to take more chances. I want you to chase your dreams. And if you need help, I'll help you. Because there's no fucking way you could fail as hard as these fucking billionaires are fucking failing. And if there's no fucking way you could fail on that level, then you can only win because they only won until they failed. So, hey, listen, right now, what is being written is a whole lot of what not to do. Okay. So if any of you had any dreams and ambitions, any things that you wanted to accomplish, go for that shit. You can't possibly fail as hard. Because they're going to drain all the money out of the US economy and we're all going to die. Just saying. You can do whatever you want. hmm As long as it doesn't hurt other people. Uh-huh. And no, it hasn't always been roses for those companies. Plenty of those people have been in abusive work relationships for a very long time. I cannot imagine people like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk are great bosses that understand that most people want to work a 40-hour work week or maybe even fucking less. Okay? So, see what I'm not really a big fan of here. Not really a fan of this. Iran rejects meaningless talks with the U.S. First of all, I agree. Any conversations we're having with this administration are pointless. But I'm also willing to be like, yo, that's tough. Elon's pissed about tariffs. Well, it is Sunday. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, markets are down. So, and hey, all that has to happen, all this can stop if the US Department of Justice, if just one person with access to all these reports from the prior election, from Executive Order 13848, if just one person would just leak all those states' reports, all on their elections, and leak all of and cop to audits on all these elections, I think we can recover. I think you'll have some confidence back from your people. Because I'm telling you, I know an awful lot of people that are considering selling everything and just buying a fucking RV and riding it out. And I'm saying this content eventually has to be seen by someone who investigated this past election. Release it to the public. Jack Smith, Volume 2 report, release it to the public. What are we doing? Nothing matters anymore. Stock market's in a fucking free fall. People are talking depression, recession. I'm saying full blown, unrecoverable stock market crash. The great thing about the way the world works is time is the great equalizer. And I get it that we have been oppressed by these billionaires for who knows how long. And that ability to oppress is winding down every day. They are not just losing a dollar. I'm looking at some of these markets down close to 10% daily. I'm just so you know, like 30-40% and it's unrecoverable and eventually you'll die. Your business will die. So hey, a lot of this could be stopped. I'll never forget that Kamala Harris said, "Only when it's darkest will you truly see the light." We are in a fucking dark spot, kids. We need some adult in the room to be like, here, by the way, are the 4.5 to 20 million missing fucking votes from this past election. We were just making sure these may piss us in protests and do something worse. Well, one of the things I want to point out, Dina, yesterday is that there wasn't a planned counter protest. So don't expect Donald Trump to have a plan. He certainly didn't have a plan. Yeah, like I said, I gotta imagine somebody that works. I mean, think about the people in politics that you're watching them talk and you're like, they're hiding something from us. Like that's what I get from Barack Obama and Kamala Harris lately is like they're hiding from us so that they don't spill the fucking beans. And she said, "I'm not gonna stand up here and say I told you so. I told you so." And good on her because she did say it. She said we'd be a full blown recession by summer. Okay, but for the record, I'm telling you, I'm a math person. I'm not a stock market guy. I'm not one of those people that I'm getting paid to talk positively about stuff. Dude, that's a crash. That is a stock market crash. That is not a recession. That is not a depression. No, that is a straight up nosedive, bro. Kamikaze. Well, Vladimir Putin is having him do it. Okay, but again, like again, I want to make sure I say that. Like people are saying, like, oh, this is gonna be a recession. Oh, this is gonna be a depression. We've been through depression before, and it's like, look at the fucking dip in the stock market. It's inverse, sir. Inverse. It's like we're going backwards in fucking time too. It's not just that the stocks are cratering. Okay. Well, aren't they all drug addicts? So that's the chemical drug to their gun to their head. They have extreme narcissistic personality disorder where they absolutely cannot be wrong. And clearly it's fucking contagious, right? Because you got your Elon and Donald Trump ass kissers pulling out pew pews at protests after they get their shit rocked. And for the record, headbutting someone is totally the move. Totally the move. Takes them completely off guard. I think you're gonna lean in there for a little shoulder shrug and you just whack. Yeah. hmm But again, like I said, the lone provocateur from the April 5th, 2025 protests in Lafayette, Indiana. Hey, and the thing about it is, they can't admit that they take dark money. They took dark money. I mean, the thing about Elon Musk is that insider trading. Well, those things are public, so you would just know that they were doing that. See, what's even crazier is one of the things, because I'm not a capitalist, right? And one of the things that a capitalist has to believe in is private equity. One of the things that's losing its asshole right now and is losing its grip on American business is private equity. So and those private equity groups also run your fucking retirement. So anybody wondering why their fucking 401k is shot, and that's because who is the private equity in this country? BlackRock, State Street, I had one that was a R. I'm trying to remember what that was. All those companies are all invested in these tech companies. They're losing their asshole, and they don't have the kind of mobility that typical um, wealth planners do, stock traders do. So they can't move that money like we think, or they can move it without us knowing. No, they lost $23 billion. It's being done on purpose, but not like you think. It's being done on purpose from Vladimir Putin's perspective. He wants our economy to hurt like his economy has been hurting, and he's telling Donald Trump and Elon Musk what to do, and they're doing it. But that last sentence about, I think they already moved their stocks out though. So we're talking about people that are majority owners or CEOs of large corporations. So their shares are public, my friend. I understand what you want, right? But that mobility is something that you can monitor. And people that are that heavily invested, that are like executives within corporations, they're not divesting from their own companies. Mm-mm. Not without somebody calling it out. And you would have read a news story about, and I think you did read about Warren Buffett cashing out. He is doing it on purpose, Dina, because Vladimir Putin told him to. And he's saying shit like, this is a time to get rich again, telling people to buy these stocks. And I'm sitting here saying, this isn't the time to buy. Those stocks are going to keep falling. Just let them keep falling. Eventually, they'll be fucking nothing. You'll scrape these companies up off the floor. And that's a good thing. You want to do that. CEO GameStop increases stake in a company. Yeah, because a lot of motherfuckers are going to be sitting at home with nothing to do because there ain't no jobs. Just riding it out. Just hoping to pay their rent, keep the lights on. Fuck it, maybe I'll become a streamer. Mm-hmm. Here's a weird. The Canadian Parliament is on lockdown as police deal with barricaded man within the last 12 hours. Oh, by the way, everybody's all talking about the 43-year-old U.S. attorney uh, given a recommendation by Joe Biden, worked on all these things. I'm pretty sure she died of an epileptic seizure. A lot of people are saying foul play and shit. I was actually kind of relieved when I heard that, where I was like, oh, thank God it wasn't. Yeah. Remember, everything they touch dies. So let them get into crypto. No, the president of the United States does not have spending power to create the Bitcoin reserve and have the US investing in Bitcoin and shit. It's not gonna happen. Okay? I don't know if we talked about this. Look at this shit. Paris, France turned up yesterday. It's awesome. Now remember, every show we got to talk about the calendar of events. Oh, the Russians. Yeah, right. Okay. And I almost think like she hit it a little too much on the head. If you think about what she was investigating, it was oh my gosh, it was like she had like insider trading, um, espionage, securities fraud, like the things that she sued people and shit for. It was like, oh, no wonder she died. She hit it too much on the nose. So yeah, on our calendar for here for April, yesterday was the People's Veto Day, the hands-off protests at state capitals and multiple cities all over the United States, um, and internationally. Congratulations. Okay, This month of April, what we're focusing on is reducing our subscription costs. So for those of you out there, okay, that have a million subscriptions, this is the time to stop paying that money too. Remember, my advice is to save your money. Okay. Matter of fact, my advice is to get your money out of your banks, get it into a credit union, probably get it into a couple credit unions, spread it around a little bit, start to manage your money better. There's no sense in buying goods whose price is exorbitant. Okay. Okay. We are amidst an economic blackout anyway, so you're kind of playing along where we don't spend money on these applications. We don't use these applications. So that's your Facebook, your Threads, your IG, your WhatsApp, your Messenger, your Twitter, your Amazon. Stop using those applications. Delete them from your devices. Stop doom scrolling. Do something. Like I said, this month is an economic blackout, and get rid of your subscriptions, right? Save yourself some money there too. Get outside more, okay? Now, on Thursday, April 24th, there is the Canadian Solidarity protests, okay? Thursday, April 24th. And then Wednesday, April 30th, wear denim to support an LGBTQIA plus march on Washington, D.C. I can't see. We are something.org. And then May 1st, May Day protests and strikes, generalstrikes.com. And oh, by the way, every Saturday is a Tesla takedown. So understand this next week, because today's Sunday, next week, and when at the very least there's a Tesla takedown protest everywhere. Okay. Understand that if there are other protests that you're aware of that I'm not talking about, you need to let me know, especially if it is an organized protest. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, there not only is a Tesla takedown every Saturday, we just had a major protest yesterday on the 5th. On the 24th, there's a protest. On the 30th, there's a protest. And on the 1st, there's a strike. Everybody good with this? So it's not like, one of the things that we're doing is we're slowly increasing the number of events. I don't know if y'all have caught on to this. Like initially it was just like, oh, this protest on February 5th. Then there was a protest March 4th, or yeah, then there was a protest March 14th. And there was a protest at the end of March. And there's a protest in April, a weekend protest now at your nearest Tesla dealership on Saturdays. Tesla takedown. Okay. July 27th called Money Out Politics Movement. Hopefully we'll hear more about it. If it goes up on Protest Finder USA or R50501. One of the things that I won't support are organizations or groups of people that are trying to divide us up at all. For example, I'm just speaking about my experience. So before everybody's like, "Oh my God, Indivisible set up the protest, the veterans protest on March 14th." And I stood there and listened to the whole thing. And the guy from Indivisible, I just want to make sure I say this out loud. The guy from Indivisible was talking about people not wanting to work with R50501. Hey, we're all in this together. I honestly could not tell you why you wouldn't want to work with R50501 or R Protest Finder USA. I post their links in our show. Um, so to hear the Indivisible guy tell other veterans, and again, I get it. They're assuming veterans are pretty apolitical, but on as a unit, but all the people that were at that protest were not active duty or anything, right? So they're gonna be political. So for the guy from Indivisible being like, I know some of you don't fuck with R50501, and all I could think was, don't start no shit, won't be no shit. Like, if that didn't need to be said, it didn't need to be said at all, right? And then it was just like, why would you disparage another movement? We're all going in the same direction. We're all protesting this administration and its decisions, right? Yeah. Saying 5,000 here in Indy, which again is a blue dot in the middle of red hell. I hope all those people that voted for him are just winning so much. I realize gas prices are still about 40 cents more than they were before Donald Trump was in office per gallon. Our grocery bills up, gas bills up, stock market's crashing. There ain't a fucking thing going right with this administration. They can't even get deportation right. A judge ordered them to get that person they deported incorrectly back. The Department of Justice here in the United States is saying judge can't make that decision. So you see, the adults in the room are a bunch of fucking idiots. A bunch of idiots. They don't even have to be, that word might be stuck in my brain or something. I always love when people say like, "Oh, I want to finish up talking about this conversation I had at the Jiffy Lube." Okay, so the guy asked me about AI, and I tried to defer and say like I'm the wrong person to talk to, and he was just like, "What do you mean?" I studied AI at Purdue for 2 years, part of the data analytics program, and I told him it's another tool in the toolbox, and it cannot be how you get your education. It can be a part of how you get there, but you cannot, you don't have the time to invest to make an AI do what you need it to do. It's going to take too much time, energy, and resources. And amidst talking about AI, we talked about video games. Again, my wheelhouse. And he said, because he's a parent and he has teenage kids, and he he said, when they're adults, I want to play video games with them, but they're kids now, and I can't get them to focus on their education or sports or after school programs because they're wrapped up in video games. I don't want to take them away. And I said, I feel like taking them away would be a mistake. And he said, they don't need to be punished. They didn't really do anything wrong. It's just that video games are like a big part of their life, and I feel like they're not enjoying high school because they're wrapped up in video games. And he was talking about Fortnite and Roblox, and I said, "Had you ever thought of playing with them so that at least you're together?" And I said, I can imagine how much different how much more fulfilling my childhood would have been if my old man, who worked all them hours to buy that shit for me, ever sat down and played it. And he was like, you're right. I've always seen it as a waste of time and that they could be doing something better with their time. And I said, it sounds like this is their hobby, though. It sounds like something that they like to do. And like he said, it's not that their grades are struggling or that they're getting in trouble or they need necessarily punished. And I said, but I'm a gamer. I have been my whole life. It's an escape from reality, just like S&M said. And it's necessary. And when you get older, 60% of adults play video games. So for the record, gamers are in the majority. And remember, the majority of voters have a college degree. The majority of voters play video games. There's a Yeah, we didn't have anybody causing problems. I walked the perimeter at my protests. Try to see those agitators coming. There weren't even uniformed police all over the place. There were some people in some safety vests that didn't appear to be police officers. They didn't have badges displayed. Hmm. So yeah, so I was talking with a parent, like I said, a black man from Sudan. You know what I mean? Like he had a non-English speaking accent, and he spoke to me. You know what I mean? I was wearing this here hat, so maybe he thought it was something else. Maybe he thought I was smart. Um, but yeah, he asked me about AI, asked me what I thought about video games, whether I thought they were good or bad. And I told him that I'm a high school football coach, and my favorite people that I've ever met in my entire life are the people that are also obsessed with NCAA college football. The video game makes it a lot easier because they have a wider vocabulary and they know more about football. Yep. And like I said, Crush, I said earlier that I saw a couple content creators that I follow that are people of color say, you may have noticed at these protests yesterday the lack of melanin, and that's because the police unfairly target people of color. So they are sitting these protests out for their safety, and I commend them for that. Um, Thinking of yourselves finally after having come out and protested for civil rights for last couple centuries. Let's just say that to be nice. It's about time uh, you give it to white people and say this is your fucking mess. Go clean it up. It's the same thing with Republicans writing a bill to prevent these President Trump's tariffs from going through. It's their fucking mess. Clean it up. And that's exactly, I mean, that's what the Democrats are doing. They notice they're not co-sponsoring a bill. They're not writing a bill to undo this. It's on the Republicans. It's your constituents. And again, if I can get any action out of my audience, it's download the Five Calls app. It's time to reach out to your representatives. There's a scripts you can find, so you can just read a script into a voicemail and voice your displeasure. Okay. But yeah, we talked about what if to reward them, you play video games with them as opposed to it being a punishment reward system when they don't need to be punished. Then you would just be like, be mean to them to establish this order, And it's just like, you don't need to do that. I'm not even a fucking parent, and that's poor leadership. I'm not like more likely to do what you want me to do when you go ahead and punish me to set up a reward punishment system. That's stupid. Kids will see right through that shit. And I said, why don't you sit down and play with them and take a natural interest in what they're in and get good and care? I mean, that's what I did when I found out my nieces, uh, when I found out my nieces play Fortnite, I started playing Fortnite to get good myself. So I could sit down with them girls and them be green as fuck and have no clue what they're doing and just handle my business. Don't worry, ladies. I got it. Not because I wanted to play Fortnite. I've never really liked the battle royale style games. Um, I read um Hunger Games, right? I seen the fucking movies, right? I didn't necessarily want to play in a survival of the fittest style game, right? And everybody has one, right? And the thing about it is, what's hilarious is that you either play Fortnite, Warzone, or DayZ. I think that's the games. They're all the same thing. It's all uh I call it survival of the fittest, battle royale, last man standing type shit. Um, it's funny, like all gamers fit into one of those three categories. So I try to be good at all of those because I coach football. You never know. Your quarterback is a huge Fortnite fucking fan. When are you gonna get time outside of practice time to sit down and talk to your fucking quarterback? Probably playing fucking Fortnite with him, right? And actually being good on your own and it not being a big deal. You not needing them to babysit you, right? And I do that because I think if 60% of people are gamers now, that number is only going to go up, right? In the future, literally everyone will be a video gamer. Why? Because it won't be, uh, it'll be unseasonable weather, you know? That's what I've realized as I get older. We'll all be streaming one day because you won't be able to go outside. We're going to spend the next 30 to 40 years of our lives making our abodes safer versus extreme heat and cold. Not to predict the future or anything. So you heard it. I told you. You're going to spend the next X part of your life trying to figure out how you can shield your house from extreme heat and cold. So like I said, everybody's going to be a gamer eventually because it'll be about the only thing you can do. So I feel really bad for people that could never get into video games. So I play games, not anything else. See, Dina, I'm a stoner, so that is like everything for me. If I start eating, I'm just gonna keep eating and never stop. If I start watching this show, I'm gonna keep watching it and never stop. If I start playing video games, I'm never gonna stop. You're gonna be fine. The average human being has like 2.5 hours tops of attention span. A lot of governors are standing up to Trump. So we like to see and hear. So also download the Goods Unite Us app so that you can get squared away on where to spend your dollar on what you can buy. Like this is just stupid. When I do play video games, I can't stop. My wife plays Sims 4, when she gets really into it, she gets worse than I am. Like she will literally be in her office 2 days straight, nonstop. So I understand. I don't have that kind of attention span. I try to stream myself playing video games, but I can't sit there for hours on end. I gotta get up, I got to check on the dogs, I got too much shit to do. I don't have that kind of audience where they would want to watch someone else play video games. Obviously, everybody be careful with all these. Yeah, yeah, Angie. Oof. I love Mario Kart too. Yeah, but that link from the New York Times, Donald Trump fired U.S. aid workers working in a quake zone in Myanmar. Fucking asshole. You put people in danger, in danger. But yeah, thunderstorms create catastrophic flooding in the U.S. Um, you know what's crazy? Because I just saw Paducah, Kentucky. Um, so my mom's family is from the hills and hollers of Kentucky. Like not Buckhorn Lake, but the shithole town next to Buckhorn Lake. Okay. Um, I remember being in their hollers when I was a kid and being like, their one bad storm from this whole holler just getting fucking wiped out. Um, it doesn't make me like sad or anything like that, but like just thinking about all these floods, and I can picture like going past the gas station, turning right, going around this left-hand bend, and like for, you know, a good couple football fields, there's 6, 7 houses down through there I got blood in. You know what I mean? Like that's where my family's from. And I remember being a child and just the smell, because it's super green and lush, right? The way the sun works in the area, things aren't getting burnt all day, all summer, right? So you really green area and you could definitely smell it. And just not, I'm not talking about weed or anything. I'm just talking about like a super green Kentucky Valley, right? And just when I was a kid being like, this is like the low point. Where they live is like the low point in the holler. Like, why don't you live up there? Like up the hill. That's silly. And for the record, my great grandfather lived on top of a hill. He had a house up top of the hill. His kids and shit lived down in the fucking holler because it's cheap. And I remember, I mean, that's 30 fucking years ago. And thinking in my head, like, a bad fucking storm and this whole fucking all these houses and shit, they're all gone. These fields, the way their fields are slanted, they're draining all of the moisture. No wonder their crops only ever get to half height. Think about what's happening to the soil quality if your crops are only ever able to get to half height, right? No, I'll tell you where it is. I can never remember how to look it up. Hey, Berea. Oh, Buckhorn. Oh my God. Yep. Like looking directly at 20 fucking years, 30 fucking years ago. Mm. Hazard. That's where my family's from. Hazard, Kentucky. So yeah. Mm-mm. So when I was a little kid, that's where my family visited. Like when my great grandparents died, that's where they was buried. My grandparents, my mom's parents met in Hazard. I haven't been there in 30 years. All I can think is like a big wave of water just going down through them hollows, and just pushing everything up against someone's fence. You know what I mean? Super small town. I want to say not even justified with a stoplight. I want to say that was just a blinking red light there in Hazard. Um, the grocery store had a Dairy Queen attached. I ain't never seen a beat in my life. Where you could go get groceries, get in your car, drive around the building, get in line to go to DQ. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think that's Hazard County, Kentucky, CC. I don't think that's Hazard where my my grandparents are from. There ain't no hot rods in Hazard, Kentucky, I can assure you. Funny, I met people that left Hazard before I ever went to Hazard. Yeah, I was thinking about grass clippings when I had that flashback to Hazard, Kentucky, and all these floods all over. Just so you know, Combs, Kentucky. See that Combs, Kentucky? That's my cousins, the Combses. Oh, God. But yeah, I can't help but think about farmers, farmers, police, and the unions, all who acted like they were gonna vote uh for Kamala, voted for Trump, and are now eating it hard. Right? Remember, the New York NYPD police union immediately got $8 million taken out of its coffers by Elon Musk. They've attacked fucking unions, right? And now US farmers are saying these Canadian tariffs are hurting us. The very people, again, that likely voted for this administration, you voted for this, are now, I wouldn't say reaping the rewards, is probably not the right thing to say there, but hey, this is what you wanted. This is the person that you thought was the most well suited to run the country. I hope you get what you voted for. I hope that, first of all, I hoped that you were right, right? That he was going to be good for the economy. I hoped that he was right. Now we know that he was not right. And now I just hope the people that voted for this feel it first. I know that the people that voted for this are not are felt it first because we were the ones that were awake at 4 a.m. on the 5th, right? We were the ones saying something is wrong here. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the actual, and I wouldn't say physical impact, but the near physical impact of your decisions. I'm guessing close to 80% of the people first and most affected by this administration are the people that voted for it. When you think about Trump voters and also the billionaire puppet masters, right? They're all those billionaires losing their whole assholes, and all of the data that came back on Donald Trump supporters of Republican voters was less than 40% of a college degree, are more likely to be enrolled in programs like SNAP and Medicare, Medicaid, and SSDI. Um, so understand, it's got to be really painful at some point for anyone that's able to drop their ego, lose their fucking narcissism, and for a couple minutes understand the impact that this administration so far is having, and understanding that it's going to impact the people that voted for this first and most likely. So I know that we've been sitting here for however long, 4 or 5 months now, 6 months now, talking about this. And so we have felt it, right? Because we've been talking about it. I'm not talking about the recognizing there's a problem and pointing it out and saying, hey, that's going to be a fucking problem. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it actually affecting. Oh, honey, it's better than 80% to impact someone that supported this as opposed to someone who is against it. And again, I know there are people, the Jared people are being fucking deported. Right, right. And one of the first people to get fucking deported was wearing a Latinos for Trump shirt. So again, I know that you want to say the victims of this are not the people that supported it. And I'm saying counter to that, there's a reason it's not on fucking TV, is because the billionaire owners of fucking media corporations, they know that the poor people being impacted by this don't have cable. Think about that. Donald Trump was able to do what he was able to do because the end of the day, the people that voted for him are the kinds of people, and I hate to be like that, it's just fucking true, man. But the people that voted for Donald Trump were either fucking billionaires, they live in a fucking trailer park, or worse. There's very little in between. The uber rich and the poor and ignorant. I didn't say the rich people were smart. Remember, George Carlin said half of all people are stupid, the other half are even stupider. And my biggest fear here is what will these billionaires do when they don't have the money? What are they gonna do when they don't have money and you don't have money power? Because I can promise you there won't be the second coming of Donald Trump. There won't be that. Because people will see the signs. I'm hoping. I would add racist to that, yeah. I don't think you have to be that smart to understand what exploitation is. You know what I mean? I don't think it takes that brilliant of a person. You know what, how do I make more money? Oh, I find a group of people I can exploit. You know, I worked for a company for years that installed ADT home security systems. Now, if I had it my way, if I had it my way, I would have marketed to all these new groups of homes being built, all these new neighborhoods, these rich neighborhoods. Let's get an ADT sign in their yards. And they didn't do that. They marketed to poor people first because it's cheaper to market in areas where it's just poor people. And we end up getting more money out of them knowing they probably won't even live in that rental long enough to fill this contract, so they're going to have to break it. We're going to make way more money on that, breaking our terms. So understand that there's almost no getting rich unless you're willing to exploit people. Almost no getting rich. And again, will still maintain if you have an artistic bone in your body to use that to either supplement or replace your income because now is the time when struggle art is going to be really valuable and people will buy that shit. So I've talked to people that have talked about making art out of recyclable material and shit. Do it. Do it. Make art. Make music. I heard one of the TikTokers I find myself hearing frequently, I've seen he was on Jimmy Kimmel. So like I said, make art. Nah, the dips are too sharp, Aaron. The dips are too sharp for it to be recoverable. They're not gonna turn around, man. Any turnarounds in the stock market are manufactured. They're not natural. I can't. I'll be surprised if Donnie and Elon are together much longer. Which one? I shared it this morning. If you work a little harder, there. Yep. Yeah, Justin Wells. Jesse Wells. That's his name. It's a fucking banger too. Anyway, y'all have a good day.